Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. TMax here. I make videos about language, travel, and culture. And now that I'm back in the US, I'm starting to share what I do with people, and I'm meeting people who have done the same things that I was doing. So today we have a special guest, and she's going to share about her experiences in China.
My name is Karen DeGees, and I lived in China from January 18th, 1983 until June of 85. My husband worked for CTV, which is Canadian television, and they asked him if he would like to go to China, and that was at the end of 1982. And I remember I was at work, and he says, I want to ask you something, but I think you need to sit down. I don't need to sit down. And he says, how would you like to go to China? Wow, I'm sitting down.
Yeah.
And we went. It ended up being like the most vibrant years of my life.
Really? Okay.
And then my now ex-husband and I, we moved back for the CBC in the fall of 87, and we left in the summer of 90. Going to China was like going to Mars. It wasn't really opened up yet. It was the end of the Cultural Revolution. The Cultural Revolution was over, but still no one challenged the sort of repressive laws. And when we arrived, I remember very clearly, we were in a sedan coming in, but people were walking all over the road, and everybody was in those blue Mao outfits. Oh, wow. You know, men, women, they would be padded with cotton, because I would say that the weather in Beijing is like Washington, D.C. And they were just rumbling along, and people were running to get their buses, and it was so crowded. And they had just opened one international hotel. I remember we stayed there until our apartment was ready. You woke up in the morning, and we were facing the main avenue of the whole city. And all I can remember is there was just this sweet sound of bicycle bells.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, we looked out, we couldn't believe it. And they had also just passed an ordinance that you weren't allowed to honk your horn. Previous to that, just a couple weeks earlier, it sounded like a cacophony, apparently. You know, everybody was honking every time they touched their brake and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But when we arrived, it was just the sweet sound of the bicycles, which for us on the outside was very charming.
So I did a video earlier about transportation in China, and when I lived in Beijing, my primary mode of transportation was bike. And so I just talked about life in the bike lane and how dangerous it could be. And honking apparently has been reinstated because that is a national pastime. Yeah, it's nonstop.
Really?
Yeah, bike bells, honking, scooters. It's nonstop out there.
Oh, wow, what a shame.
Yeah, so when you said the beauty of no honking, I honestly can't even imagine that in Beijing. So you mentioned Chang'an there were bikes, and so now there are bike lanes between Tiananmen Square and the Forbidden City, but it's like an 8-lane road now, and very few people bike there. There's always police on guard, and it's mostly just cars and traffic. You don't see a lot of people other than in front of the Forbidden City and in Tiananmen Square. And
or tourists?
All tourists usually,
yeah.
And whether Chinese or foreign, but you can't cross this road. You have to, there's underground tunnels now.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Do they still have those big posters up of Karl Marx, I think Trotsky, Stalin, and then Mao?
No, it's just Mao now.
We had a friend, he was Chinese, and he says, do you see those posters? We said, yeah. He says, do you know what it represents? And we said, yeah, the development of communism. And he says, no, it's the history of shaving. That was a cute response.
That is really good,
yeah.
I like stuff like that. What did you enjoy about China?
What did I enjoy? In the very beginning, because the country had been closed for so long, was the naivety of people. Mm-hmm. And it was very charming. Sometimes outside of Beijing in particular, people would stare at us. But I mean, dead stare, like as if we had no soul and just be... Yeah. Communism was also, when it was very strict like that, was really kind of boring. There wasn't a lot to do. You really couldn't go many places, and there were so many things that were forbidden that it was just better just to go home. There were no cheap restaurants to go to.
Wow.
So I think part of it was just boring, and we were like live action figures.
Yeah.
So I went with some girlfriends and we went up to Harbin, which is northeast China, just below Siberia. We were a major novelty.
Oh, good.
And people followed us like a crowd of 20 kids.
I had the same, I think, reactions from people outside of major cities.
My ex-husband was blonde,
Okay.
but very blonde. And we went to Tibet, and he was wearing a short sleeve shirt, and the women were touching the hair on his arm. Even, they could see the hair on his head, and it was just like. We had an interpreter for the office, and he was really a brilliant guy. And even for a Chinese man, he was really short, because people in northern China are taller.
Right, yeah.
Oh, and we had a cleaner. I don't know if our apartments were bugged. The telephones definitely were, because you could always tell because there would be increased static on your telephone. But the help actually told on us so much that they didn't really need to bug the telephones. It was so close from the Cultural Revolution that if you were caught trying to make extra money, you could be sent to the countryside for trying to get ahead of others. But our interpreter, he came from 8 to 9 and gave us Chinese lessons. And he would just about run out of the apartment because around 9:30, 3 days a week, I had this cleaner come. The interpreter didn't want the cleaner knowing that he was giving us lessons. And then the cleaner tells me that he got demoted from being a cook. And he tells me, he confides in me, if you want me to cook for you, I can cook for you. I can make pingguo pie. And I'm sitting there going, pingguo pie, pingguo pie, pingguo. Let's cut this word up. Oh, pingguo? Oh, apple pie. And I said, sure thing. So for a while, I'm sitting there having apple pie like 3 times a week. And then when the interpreter came, he goes, oh, Karen, did you make these pies? And I go, uh-huh. Because everybody was afraid of everybody telling on them. And I was afraid of people telling on me. They kept a good eye on us, and that gave me the creeps. That I made a Chinese girlfriend. And when she got in my elevator, the elevator operators were there, from my perspective, to understand who was coming and going. I said, we have elevators in my country. We can operate them.
Yeah.
Nope. They had to have elevator operators. And they did. I remember this girl came in. When the elevator closed, we both laughed because it was just so unsubtle.
Yeah. Nowadays, they're relying more on technology to do that. I feel like they're still following. There's cameras everywhere, inside and outside. And with phones, this is why Huawei was banned in the US, because our government thought the Chinese government was using Huawei to spy on. So there's a running joke with me and my Chinese friends. If we ever said anything, even just in jest, we obviously weren't conspiring against the government, but if we said something like, oh man, I hate when they do this, and we always pick up our phone and go, I love China. Just as though we know they're listening and that's what we want them to hear. People working side hustles is just as common in China as it is here.
Okay.
So, and because the payment system through WeChat, everybody uses WeChat. So people who have their second and third or fourth job, they'll just take their money through WeChat, so they don't have to report it. And
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I took a taxi, and they would give you receipts by giving you little paper chits. So the taxi's going to let me off, and I said, here's 10. He said, I don't have change. And I'm like, keep it. He said, no. He was terrified of keeping it.
Taxi drivers will never have a problem overcharging you now. And now, nobody uses cash.
Oh, really?
So WeChat it's a QR code, effectively, is how you pay for everything, and your camera. And so it's to the point where I've had Chinese friends saying, have you ever seen money? Like, yeah, I've seen Chinese money. Yeah, because it's just so uncommon for all exchanges.
Even credit cards?
Nobody uses credit cards either. Yeah.
What if you lose your phone?
Your life might be over. Like, I've had colleagues and friends with existential crises when their phones die. I did a YouTube video about the power of the smartphone. It's very powerful in China right now, especially the newer generation.
Older people were afraid to work hard because if you worked hard, that meant that you were trying to get ahead. And if you were trying to get ahead, you were a capitalist roader. I remember, though, the young people, do you have this one maybe in 12 ounces? And, oh, let me check. And they'd be going, there was an old man sitting in his desk. He just sat there and drank. He didn't write one thing. He didn't do anything. But he looked as nervous as could be. But nothing was going to make him work because he didn't want to get in trouble.
Now they're having issues with the 996 culture, which is from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., 6 days a week. This was made popular by Jack Ma. Work hard. And now the younger generation, they're fighting this, and they're like, we don't even want to work. We're not going to work.
Do they take a sushi? It's in the Constitution, for God's sakes.
Oh yeah, okay.
A rest.
Okay.
No. Oh, you do toast.
Yeah, sorry. They do not though.
But you get a 2-hour break in the middle of the day. You know, the place would come to a standstill. Wow. And I remember I went out and I had the cleaner that was making pingwo pies. And I come in one day and he is asleep prone on my sofa. And I go, okay.
You were in China in 2 different time periods. What were the major differences?
I don't think that the Chinese had anticipated the popularity of the tourism because we would go take picnics out in the countryside. Have you been, is it the Ming Tombs where they have the animals and then the soldiers?
Yeah, that's the Ming Tombs.
Okay, we mounted the camel and took pictures of ourselves, put our arm around one of the soldiers, and it was like, cool. Yeah. And then when I came back in '87, that same area, they had made a road and there was a parking lot and there was a wrought iron grid around each statue. I'm sure it's really controlled now.
You can't eat on the tables anymore. They have an area for that now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, what a drag. How many ring roads are there now?
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, 6. Yeah. When I was there were 3. The first one I wasn't even sure what the ring was, but
right.
Yeah, because it got populated. And then, but I remember there were expressways going to nowhere, but you knew that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
We were still very segregated from the Chinese, and it was really absolutely verboten to be friends with us. You were allowed to have Chinese friends?
Yeah, a lot of Chinese friends, yeah. Most of my friends were Chinese.
Really?
Yeah. Especially in Beijing, because it's a lot more cosmopolitan. Yeah.
Just the whole thought of befriending a Chinese, you were endangering them.
Wow.
And endangering yourself. You'd start getting static on your telephone.
Did you have any experience without the interpreter where you had to use language or you had to defend yourself?
There are 4 tones in Mandarin Chinese. To me are like, you've got to be kidding me, right? And I found that if I whined, that sometimes it would just come across better. Mm-hmm. So where's the cinema? Or something, And sometimes people would get it better.
Yeah.
But I was in Taipei, and I decided to go to the ballet. I go up to the window, and I said, I'd like to buy a ticket. 我要买票. And this woman on the side goes, how much? How much? And I go, no. 我要买票. 我要买. And I said it louder. And then a third woman chimes in. She says, one of the my was buy, and ma was sell.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank God we cleared that up.
Lots of videos on this channel about that. I'll link them in the description below. And I'll send some to you as well. I did a song, actually, called 99 Problems, all about Chinese. And it's broken into 3 parts. And the third part of the song is just about tones and confusion that I have with them. And everything you're saying is just like you're preaching to the choir here. Because
exactly.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Oh, that's too funny. What about food? What were your experiences with Chinese food like, other than the pinguo pie?
Other than the pinguo pie. You'd go to a restaurant and they'd hand you this menu. What would you like to eat? I think I'll have the zucchini. Mayo. Do you still get a lot of mayo in China?
Yeah.
And mayo means
whatever you want to order is they're gonna say that.
Then you'd say about 2 or 3 things, and then you'd say, "What would you suggest?"
Right. What do you have?
So there would be tomato, and eggplant,
Okay.
and cabbage, and bean sprouts. So you'd say, "I'll have the eggplant." And it was always the same, and now when I have it in Chinese restaurants, I just look and go, ah. The one thing that bothered me at banquets was that they used so much MSG. Are they still doing that?
Not as much. They still use it, but actually they'll tell you if they use it now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I remember I'd come home, and my tongue would be burning, and I'd have a slight headache in the front of my head.
Oh, wow. Did the locals make jiaozi and eat them?
We had jiaozi morning, noon, and night.
Okay, well, you didn't mention inside.
When we first arrived for Chinese New Year, they had firecrackers going off. And I thought, is there a coup? No. Chinese New Year is coming and people are just testing them out.
Firecrackers are still banned anywhere inside the 6th ring. So if you live outside the 6th ring, you can set them off, which is like 20 kilometers from the center.
And there was also the tradition of eating fish for Chinese New Year. That's still got to be going, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we shopped at the best grocery store in the city, maybe the country. It was for foreigners. The interpreter, he went and bought a whole load of frozen fish. I never saw the journalist's wife ever go bonkers except for once, because she opened up her freezer and out came something that looked like biblical proportions. All this frozen fish came rolling out onto her kitchen floor.
Oh, wow.
And so she screamed his name, and what's going on here?
Yeah.
He says, oh, people need fish for New Year's.
All right, so thank you so much for taking some time out to chat with us, sharing your experiences.
People are welcome to ask me questions.
Yeah, so if you have a question for Karen, put it in the comments below and we'll be tracking and I'll make sure that she gets them.
Well, I think when things settle down in China, COVID-wise, it's a great place to visit.
I absolutely agree. So remember to like, share, subscribe, leave questions below for Karen or for myself, and we will see you in the next video.
再见.
再见.